So Donald Trump has essentially ruled out that Mike Pence would be his vice presidential running mate if he were to run for president again in 2024. And this is not particularly surprising given the last 14 months of the things that Donald Trump has said about Mike Pence, but it does make 2024 significantly more interesting. A president running again after losing re-election with a different running mate is interesting. And this we have learned thanks to an interview that Donald Trump gave to the Washington Examiner earlier this week. Washington Examiner writing Trump. Now, in this, I know Washington Examiner is not what we typically use as a source, but this is the primary source here. This was an interview that they did. Trump says Pence partnership over as ex-president eyes 2024 comeback bid. Former President Donald Trump is effectively ruling out tapping former VP Mike Pence as his running mate should he mount a third White House bid in 2024 and win the Republican nomination. Quote, I don't think the people would accept it, Trump told the Washington Examiner Tuesday evening during a telephone interview that he gave from Mar-a-Lago. The former president cited friction stemming from the aftermath of the 2020 election. It's funny to call it friction. You tried to get the guy to do something illegal. Describing that as friction is interesting. Suggesting their differences are too stark to overcome. I would agree with that. Trump claimed the contest was stolen and wanted Pence to overturn the results during the congressional certification of Biden's victory. He can't. Pence, who in his capacity as Senate president was presiding over the certification proceedings, refused, explaining the Constitution granted him no authority. It's interesting to call it a refusal. It's really an inability. He can't do it. He can't do it. Now, as the article says, and as Trump said, Trump continues to insist otherwise. He pointed to bipartisan talks on Capitol Hill to reform the Electoral Count Act, the law governing the congressional certification. We've talked about that already. Trump said, Mike and I had a great relationship, except for the very important factor that took place at the end. We had a very good relationship. I haven't spoken to him in a long time. Now, there's a couple different things that can be talked about here. First, we're upping the uniqueness factor in some sense, because if Trump runs, he would also run. He will have run after losing and pick a different VP. It'll be interesting from like a historical perspective. I also can't avoid saying that the danger factor would likely be greater because Trump could pick someone that might be more assertive and more dangerous and more useful to him. Trump is reportedly mad at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis right now. But imagine if Trump partnered up with DeSantis, who is much more delusional than Pence in a particular way, and I would argue much more assertive and able to get things done. Pence has conceded that he didn't have the ability to overturn the election, and that was enough to put him on Trump's naughty list. Now, for Mike Pence's part, he was on Maria Bartiromo's Fox Business show not that long ago on March 8th, and she asked him about, what are you thinking for 24? Do you want to see Trump run? And here's how Pence answered it.
Mr. Vice President, before you go, a word on 2024. Do you want President Trump to run? Are you looking to get back into leadership?
You know, all of my focus right now is on 2022. I think we have a historic opportunity to reclaim majorities in the House and the Senate to elect great Republican governors around America. And in 2023, I'm confident the Republican Party will nominate a candidate who will be the next president of the United States of America. And at the right time, my family and I will reflect and consider how we might participate in that process. But
yeah. So not really answering the question. I think of note are how the betting markets are looking at this so far. If you looked at Predict It right now, 39 cents of every dollar are being bet on Trump being the Republican nominee. Very close at this point. 27 cents of every dollar are behind Ron DeSantis being the Republican nominee. And in a pretty distant fourth place are 6 cents on the dollar behind Mike Pence being the eventual Republican nominee. I think there is almost no chance in hell that Mike Pence ends up as the Republican nominee. But needless to say, it'll be an interesting 2024. One of our sponsors today is Immi, the world's first low-carb, high-protein, 100% plant-based instant ramen. Immi has only 6 net carbs, perfect if you're doing keto or low-carb. Unlike regular ramen, it has 21 grams of protein, helping you feel fuller longer. 18 grams of fiber, that's 4 times more than most other ramen brands. And Immi also has 35% less sodium than competitors, so you don't get that bloat and thirst. Immi uses only high-quality ingredients. They don't use a lot of preservatives that many other ramen brands use. I love making Immi ramen as a snack, just like any other instant ramen. You put it in the microwave, ready in a few minutes. I love adding green onion and mushrooms to it. Immi comes in spicy beef, tom yum shrimp, black garlic chicken. I've tried all 3. They're all delicious and they're plant-based. Right now, Immi is giving my audience $5 off when you go to immieats.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman. The link is down below.